Welcome, everyone. So excited to be here. My name is Thomas. My friends call me Lola. And usually I talk about how to improve the speed of websites. But this is not the topic for today. Today, I want to share with you some examples how you can really outstand from your competitors and sort of annoy the hell out of them, while at the same time it creates joy for you, because that's what I like the most. So annoying the competitors in a way that creates joy for me. So while preparing for this talk, I asked myself, why do I want to talk about this? Why is it important to me to share examples how to outstand from your competitors? And actually, there's two aspects to this question. The first is, in the past, I got invited to talk on conferences every now and then, but usually, until today, they put me on the technology stage because of my technology background. Right now is the first time in my life that I'm speaking on the business stage. And in the next minutes, we will, together as a group, find out if this is a horrible mistake. So in advance, I want to thank NFQ for the trust they put in me to put up a good presentation. And let's go. So the real reason why I want to talk about this is nearly 8 years ago, I had a conversation, actually also at an NFQ event, not here in Asia, but in Lithuania. So there was this party in a bar, talking to people, and Lars introduced me to a friend of his, and he told me, this is a totally cool guy, you have to talk to him. So I was like, yeah, okay. So I met the guy, we just what do you do for a living, yalla, yalla, yalla. And then he said, he sold his company, and I was like, oh wow, very interesting. And then he said, he's starting the next one. And I was like, okay, now I know why he's a cool guy. I want to hear everything. And then, basically, I asked him, what's the new company about? He was explaining a bit, but then in the middle of the sentence, he stopped and he said, actually, it doesn't matter, because I would be successful with the company in every industry, does not matter which. And then I was like, wow, what an arrogant son of a bitch. But then he explained what he meant with this. So basically he said he is driven by trying to be better than everyone else. And in his conclusion, this would mean that regardless if he is opening up a bakery or fixing people's toilets, if he's trying to be better than everyone else, this automatically means that he's going to be successful. So, sorry. The evening went on. At some point, I got home, but I couldn't really forget this conversation. And I didn't really know why. So something about the guy and about the idea he shared with me got stuck in the back of my head. I just could not let go of that. But I also couldn't put a finger on it, what's going on here. And only years later, I finally understood why I could not simply forget this conversation which happened 8 years ago. And then I realized that almost all of my life and all of the work life, I worked and operated with more or less the same principle, but I didn't know. I was not able to express what my plan is. I wasn't able to explain it. I somehow just did it, and then later I realized that basically it's the same that Peter told me so many years ago. And by the way, I never spoke to him again, so he probably doesn't know how much this conversation had an impact on my life. So Peter, if you're watching this on YouTube, from everyone here. So the next 3 slides basically are my fundamental beliefs in how to create and run a successful business. And you can imagine these slides as some sort of circle. And after that, we go into the examples. So if you want to be better, sorry, this was what he said. If you love what you do, you are more likely to work harder than the others. If you work harder, you will almost automatically be better than the others. And if you are better, then money will follow. And you see that money, and don't get me wrong, money is important, obviously, but money was not at the beginning. It's sort of at the end, or to tell it another way, it closes the circle, because money cannot be the reason you work. It can only be a result. So, why do you need to hear this story? We all live in a time where circumstances and whole industry change so fast that we cannot rely on our experiences in the past. Alexander Graf called that the grandpa stories. So I want to share my grandpa story with you, because I hope it will you get some more context about how we got to learn how to really annoy our competitors. So my grandpa story starts 22 years ago. I got a new job, and my task was to build a new online shop for Germany's biggest Apple and Mac retailer called Gravis. Me and the team, we had absolutely no clue about e-commerce, and it looked like that. There's gonna be another one. So, e-commerce in 2001. Amazon was only selling books, not even CDs. And since we are so old, I just realized maybe even not everyone here in the room knows what a CD is. So when someone placed an order, we became an email. And then we had to copy-paste from the email into the ERP system to fulfill the order. New products could only be uploaded once a week, because the process was so complicated, and we had to gather people from 3 different apartments to do that. So the overhead was way too big to do it on a daily business. And if the customer wanted to pay by credit card, we wrote them back and told them, can you please fax us a copy of your credit card and a copy of your ID, so we see it's really your card. And people did it. So then I'm not sure if I remember correctly, but I think we even put the copy into a binder for reference for further orders. Today, that would be impossible. Maybe you also didn't. Not sure if someone from Gravis is listening. So SEO, SEA didn't even exist. So what do you think? Did this work? Were we able to sell computers, which at that time were like ridiculously expensive? Were we able to sell them online and have people send us copies of their credit card? Who thinks it worked? Oh, yes. It looked a bit like this. So, regardless what we did, orders came in. And from an accounting and controlling perspective, the online shop was accounted as one of the stores. So very quickly, we became the store with the highest revenue. And we were like, but the thing is, I think, how long did it last? So times were changing so quickly that we could do this maybe for the first 3 or 4 years. And this is still like 15 years ago. And then very, very quickly, the e-commerce industry turned into this. It was highly competitive, whereas before we either did not have any competitors or our competitors were just as stupid as we are. So it didn't matter if we are better or not than them. But this is not the only thing that changed in the e-commerce industry. What also happened is that today online shops have to pay for a shitload ton of services. It's 2023 and I still see e-commerce sites pay for a commercial product just for their product images. It's fucking ridiculous. So what happened here is that not only the industry became very competitive very fast, what also happened is the industry changed from being retail-based into being service provider-based. And now e-commerce looks like this. So there are a ton of service providers, and every one of them tries to suck as much as possible revenue out of their customers, which are the online shops. And then it's the online shops' risk to somehow earn that money back with their actual customers. So if you right now are working in a non-competitive industry, I can promise you this will change. And if you are working in an industry where everything still evolves around the product itself, I also promise you that that will change. Because remember this slide? Every time something like this happens, there's gonna be some smart people asking the question, who's gonna be more successful? The people searching for gold or the people renting out the shovels and the sieves? So the switch in the e-commerce industry from a retail-based industry into a service provider-based industry. We see that in crypto, and I strongly believe that we will see this sooner or later in every industry, because it's so easy to spin up a service and make money from the people who are actually the players in the industry. So sort of meta. So now that you got the context, let's dive into the examples. Many of the examples I will to show you today will be from the e-commerce industry, because that's just happening to be the industry I operated. But I hope that for each of these examples, you will get the idea behind them, and then maybe you can apply them to your business or to your industry. So before we can annoy our competitors, we first need their attention. So there's no better way to get attention than to go to conferences, just like this here. So at conferences, it's quite common to give away free t-shirts, right? Who of you has ever gotten a free t-shirt? A lot of people. Please keep your arms up. Who of you has ever, starting from the day after the conference, seeing someone actually wear those of t-shirts? Yeah, right. So fuck shit. It's not working. And actually, please don't keep it, because that's my pajama shirt. Can I have it back? Thank you. So now we have two options how to tackle this problem. Either you can try to come up with a better design of the shirt than your competitors. Will this gonna work? Don't know. So if shirts don't work, maybe hoodies work. The thing with hoodies is they cost nearly 5 times as much as the shirt. So now either you will blow up your marketing budget, or the other decision would be, instead of 1,000 t-shirts, I can only do 200 of these hoodies. So what we tried is, oh no, let's say it the other way around. Imagine you are on a conference and there are like booth stuff, and one of the booths has like free t-shirts, and like 1,000 of them. And now they got rid of all the t-shirts, and the staff is like, yes, we got 1,000 t-shirts to the attendees of this conference. This must mean that our t-shirts are cool. So we made a good job. And then maybe a bit later, they go out for a smoke in front of the conference hall, and maybe it's a bit colder outside. And all around them, they see people wearing a hoodie from their competitor. What do you think how they're gonna feel? They're gonna love it? I bet for the rest of the day, they will not be able to think of something else but how much money they just wasted on 1,000 shirts. So if hoodies work well in Germany because the weather supports it, if where you are, the weather is not suitable for clothes like this, then fuck the hoodie and try something like sweatpants. So by the way, we have these in short and in long. If you want some, you can talk to Eva. Eva, give them a wave. And also what I learned here at NFQ is this little beauty here. For me, this will absolutely work. I will take this and the orange NFQ towel. Definitely, this is going to be on my next vacation. So, t-shirts. Next thing, still on a conference or on a fair, let's talk about the booth. We went to a conference where we knew that some of the other players will have like a huge budget for the booth, and we did not. So we needed to come up with an idea with the shittiest place, with the smallest booth, but still somehow to stand out from the others who had much more money than we had. So the first step was we created a website called Lola's Tattoo Parlor. Corresponding to this website, we created a booth, Lola's Tattoo Parlor. And it looked like this. So on the other wall, it says rock and roll e-commerce. So we didn't even have our company name on the booth. We just had this little sign saying, get your tattoo here, and people started lining up to get their tattoo. So what did we do? We start giving them temporary tattoos. And on that day, here's a close-up of the tattoo. On that day, we literally tattooed hundreds of people. And at some point during the day, the tattoos everyone wanted to have them. So what happened is that the staff from the booth of our competitors came to us and got their scale commerce tattoo. Because the tattoos were so popular, they just could not afford to be the only ones on the conference not having one. Also, what we learned is that it even works better in the evening on the conference party where there are some drinks involved. So back to the booth. What we also told people is that on the sprint of the brick wall, we have hidden 10 Easter eggs that they need to find. And if they were able to find all 10 of them, then they would win something. Honestly, I forgot what the prize was because this was not important. Important was that the people spent a lot of time at our booth, like either waiting in line to get the tattoo or in the back search for the Easter eggs. Let me show you one example. So here on one of the bricks, you see the Enterprise. And we also had like Space Invaders, Bender from Futurama, all that nerd stuff. But it was not really easy to find. So people really had to stay there. And during that, guess what we did? We talked to them about who we are and what we do. And what do you think? These people, when they left the conference on the next morning, which booth did they remember? The shiniest and biggest and most expensive one? Or maybe they looked in the mirror and remembered this. So now that we have the attention of our competitors, it's time to step up the level of annoying them. What we do, every time some potential customer wants a quote from us, is we set up a monitoring about the speed of their website. And then when they decide not to join Scale Commerce, we just delete the monitoring. But if they decide to join Scale Commerce, then we help them improve the speed, the loading time of their website, and post this on social media. So what you see here is page load time very slow before, very fast after, and in the middle, a little marker that says Scale Commerce was here. So now, for just a minute, please imagine that you would be one of my competitors. So in the morning, you get your coffee, you open up social media, and you see this. First of all, You just lost a client, a customer, which already hurts a lot. But then you see that your ex-customer actually now is working even better than before. How are you gonna feel about that? In this particular example, exactly how you deserve to, because you did a shitty job for your customer. But now remember, this was only imagination. So I am not your competitor, and you are all my friends. This is important for the rest of the talk. So the next example is to think different or be innovative. So everyone knows about partner programs. So partner program usually means you bring me a customer, I pay you money. So in our industry, the main partners are agencies. Developing agencies referring their customers to us. And all of our competitors pay them money for the referrals. We do not. We thought about that, and then we decided not to do it because of a very, very simple reason. If I pay money to an agency, who's gonna actually get this money? The boss, the founder, the CEO, or the investor, but not the people that did the project with us. So we wanted to come up with a partner program where the goodies go to the people working with us instead of their CEO. So what we did is we created a partner program called The Real Deal. And The Real Deal means that bringing the second customer to Scale Commerce, you are automatically a partner in The Real Deal, no matter if you want to or not. And you qualify for a visit from us and 1 day of free consulting or free workshop per year. And then you can decide if you want to use this whole day workshop to sort of educate your people or maybe solve a problem from one of your customers that may or may not be a Scale Commerce customer. So we want to educate our partners. And after I think the fourth or the third, Eva? After the fourth customer, additionally to the workshop, you get a budget of 1,000 euros per year, which we spend for a party of your employees. And we will also be there, obviously, because we want to talk to them. So now every second after the fourth customer will get you 1 more day of workshop or 1 more 1,000 euros for your party. So what happened is that we have agencies bringing us like 10 or 12 customers, but not because the CEO gets money for that. The next example is pricing. In our industry, there's more or less only one pricing model that applies to the hosting business. And this is basically that you have different sizes of servers, and each of them has a price, and then how many you have of the small ones, the large ones, this makes up your bill. That's not how we do it. And listen to the pitch, how I'll give it to a potential customer. What I say to them is, our pricing model will most likely surprise you. Maybe it will almost sound as too good to be true, but this does not change the fact that this can change everything in the future. And then I explain why. So if you, as the website owner, your goal would be that your software is as lean and as fast as possible, which means using as little resources as possible, so that your hosting bill is low, right? The goal of the hosting provider is exactly the opposite. They want your software to be as bloated up and as slow as possible so that you use the most resources that they are selling to you. So this means that customer and service provider actually are trying to work into opposite directions. With the model we came up, this is not true anymore. Our pricing model is transaction-based, so we charge the customers per order. And don't get me wrong, I'm not claiming that I invented revenue-based or transaction-based pricing models. But in our industry, there's no other player that is doing this with bring your own software. And this is really important, because if you can bring your own software, we have the risk that your software is shitty, and then we lose money. But to turn this the other way around, this also means that suddenly we have the same goal as our customer, because we want the software to be as fast and as lean as possible, because then we have a higher profit. And we also want to try to help our customers so they next month have a bit more orders than last month, because then our bill, our invoice can also be higher. And when we explain this to customers, that first of all, for the first time in their life, we are going into both into the same direction. We are really working together. And that also, up to a certain point, we are taking a part of their entrepreneurial risk in our pricing model, because we may lose money on a single customer. What do you imagine how many of those customers will ever go back to one of our competitors? Usually they don't. And please don't misunderstand me here. My advice is not to implement a revenue-based pricing system, because I saw Rich smiling. My advice would be, try to implement a pricing system that no one else in your industry has. And if you, on top of that, also manage to take a part of the entrepreneurial risk of your customers into the pricing model, then this is going to be top of the class, and clients will have no reason to switch after they are once in your fangs, right? So basically, if you want to stand out, you have to challenge the status quo constantly. The next advice, a bit more serious, is focus on the customer, not on the product. I see so many service providers only evolving around their product. In my opinion, this is wrong. So our business is like improvement of website speed. So what we did is we built a software where you can, for free, put up your domain name, and then it gets automatically analyzed. So it's based on Google Lighthouse and a bit more stuff around that. We built this with our development team here at NFQ. So this means this cost us real money, and we do not charge for that. But we solve a problem of our customers, because here they can see what they should do and how much potential they have to being better. Also, earlier in the presentation, I talked about online shops paying services for product images. So also with the team here in Vietnam, we built an image server that's free to use to all of our customers. And honestly, this is not the best image server in the world. And this is not the nicest looking software in the world. But it solves one of our customers' problems for free just as a bonus for being our customer. And the same goes with log files. And actually, we have more than 15 tools or services that we developed that we all give away for free as even more reasons why customers should decide to join us instead of the competitors. So the takeaway here is that you should build a reputation as a problem solver. Because what happens today is that even sometimes we get referrals from one of our competitors when they see that a lead that they came into them may not be a good fit, and they tell them to talk to us because they think we can do a better service for this particular customer. And this only happens because we have built up a reputation of being the problem solver. So the next one is super controversial. And I know at least 2 people here in the audience who are gonna hate it. Please do not do it for the money. Let me explain how I came to this conclusion. When I was 16 years old, game this for you. I wanted a new bike. And I did what every 16-year-old would do when they want a new bike. I went to my parents and I said, Mom, Dad, I want a new bike. So my parents said, no problemo, go and buy one. And then I said, but I don't have any money. And then my parents said, neither do we. And then my mom said, if you really want a new bike, go to the supermarket and ask if you can work there. And if so, then you can use this money to buy a new bike. So I was like, whatever. Went to the supermarket and told them I want a new bike. No, actually I asked for a job and got it. So what happened here is that I worked as long as I was able to save enough money to buy a new bike. And then I realized, wow, this concept is really working. So putting some work in, wait some time, depending on what you want to buy, and then just buy what you want to buy. I was super hyped. And then 1 week later, my bike looked like this. And at this moment, with a really hard lesson, I learned that, don't know how it's about you, but at least for me, money is a super bad motivator. Not because it doesn't work, don't get me wrong here, because it did work, but because it's so easily taken away from you that also means all the work was for nothing, and even worse, not only the money got taken away, but also the motivation. The risk was too high to start the circle from the beginning and they lose it again. So for me, this was the only time in my life that I did a job for the money. After that, I always tried to do a job that I like doing, not because of the result, but because of what I'm doing. The next one is very obvious, but I'm still gonna talk about this. Never be cheaper than your competitors. So you can be good, fast, cheap, and you absolutely do not want to be on this side here. You want to be better than your competitors. And better also means more expensive, because It also works the other way around. More expensive in the mind of most people means better. So the problem with being cheaper with your competitors is obvious. If you found a solution how to make a product cheaper, it's only a matter of time until some smartass comes around and finds a way to make it even cheaper. And then you are fucked. So you don't want to be cheaper, you want to be more expensive and better. But this was obvious. So this one I love very much. Is someone working in HR here? Okay, so I have to apologize in advance for the next slides. Steve Jobs once said, it doesn't make sense to hire smart people and then tell them what to do. You hire smart people so they tell you what to do. So far, I think everyone here in the room agrees. But the problem is, how do you get smart people? How do you get good people? How do you attract the best talent? And the solution that we came up with is hire when someone awesome is available and not when you desperately need them. So now some of you will say, well, Lola, that's easy to say. But how do I hire someone only because he's available? For which role do I hire them? What's the job description, right? And our answer is, fuck the job description, because good people on their own will find a place in your company where they can create impact. And I want to give you one example. When Eva started at Scale Commerce, she was responsible for marketing and events. Today, she's not anymore. Today, Eva is responsible for sales and for partner management. And this did not happen because she sucked at creating t-shirts. This happened because at some point, Eva and also we found out that being in sales simply works better for her, creates more joy for her, and she's able to create more impact for the company. So our policy is that we do not hire people with a job description or for a specific role. If we see someone in the market who we think is awesome, we just grab them. And there's one more thing to this philosophy of hiring people. So if you constantly hire people that are better than you, what's going to happen to you? So at this point, you need to really make the decision if your ego and being the big boss man is more important than your company, than the success of your company. Because the longer you stay the smartest person in your team, the longer it will take to build a team of talents that can really annoy all of your competitors. So this means if you are able to build a team that don't need you anymore in the daily business, this is not bad. This is good, actually, because coming up with all these ideas, like doing the tattoos and the sweatpants and the hiring policy and all that shit, this is easy in the beginning, but I promise you, this will get harder and harder and harder the longer you go. So by having a team that doesn't need you anymore, this also means that it frees up your mind to try to come up with new ideas. But the downside is you have to flush your ego down the toilet. The next thing is stolen from a guy called Simon Sinek, and I highly recommend buying his book. It's called Start with the Why. So I will try to briefly explain, but still you need to buy the book, okay? So basically what he says is that people are communicating in a specific pattern. And what he found out that this pattern of communication for highly inspired people or highly inspired company is exactly the opposite that everyone else in the world is communicating. So give me an example, and he calls these three circles the what, the how, and the why. So everyone, not only here in the room, but everyone on the planet and every company know exactly what they are doing, 100%. Some of the companies also know how they are doing. So their USP, what makes them different to others, stuff like that. But only very, very rarely people or company know why they are doing this. And by why, I don't mean make a profit at the end of the year, because the profit is a result, not the reason. By why, I mean what's your purpose? What is your cause? Why does your company exist? And why should everyone else matter about it? So Apple is a perfect example for that. So let me quickly share how Apple would communicate if they would do it like everyone else. And the way everyone is doing this is from the outside in, because it's obvious. We go from the most clearest, the what, to the most fuzziest, the why. So if Apple would be everyone else, they would say like, we make great computers, and the way we do that is by designing them beautifully and making them very user-friendly. Wanna buy one? And expensive, right? So it has all the information, but it's not inspiring. Here's how Apple actually communicates the same information. They start from the inside out. They say, everything we do, we believe in challenging the status quo. We believe in thinking differently. We challenge the status quo by designing our products beautifully and very user-friendly. We just happen to make great computers. Wanna buy one? So I see in your faces that some of you are ready to buy a computer from me. It was the same information, just the other way around. So do not do this, but instead do this. And this concept of start with the why does not stop with your product. For the product, people will not buy what you do, they will buy why you do it. But what we also do with our team and with the development team here at NFQ is every time we come up with some new stupid idea of a software, we need to solve one of our customers' problems. We take a lot of time to explain to them why we need to build this particular software. And this is important because if your team understands why you want to do this, maybe they can come up with an even better idea on how to do this than you would, or I would, or we would. And it does not even stop with the team. Remember what my first slide in the presentation was? So the next one, after annoying the competitors, and for me this is like a sport and it's really fun to do that. But it also may mean that I'm like the bad guy or everyone hates me, but that's not actually true. And the next example would be to be the good guy. So instead of competing for the best slice of pizza, it's your decision to maybe, instead of that, try making the pie bigger. Or to put it in other words, you need to decide if you want to be a vampire or if you want to be a doctor. I think both of them get paid equally well. So you can either kill them and take their money, or you can heal them and get paid by the health insurance. It's up to you. The last example is, in my opinion, the most misunderstood one, and it's never fucking quit. If you listen to business advice, most likely you will always hear two things. The first is, do not listen to the people who always say no. And the second, never give up. So let me quickly share what I did after my job at Gravis, and I think this is a good example for never fucking quit. So for me, it was obvious that after building the online shop, I want to be self-employed, I want to start my own company, and it has to do something with the internet. E-commerce, at that point, I could not afford. I did not have the money to invest. And I was not smart enough to invent dropshipping 20 years ago. I learned that today you can just sign up for an online course and get rich with dropshipping. Didn't work. So I came up with the plan to find out what's needed, build a solution, bam, that's it. Successful company. So I was a big fan of Apple and Macintosh, and every morning I went to all of the different websites which grabbed the news and put them in the, I went to all of the different websites which had news for the Apple industry. And I developed a website which basically will fetch the headlines and also the excerpt from the RSS feed, put that into a database and show this on one page. And then I can click on the headline and will be redirected to the original website. Every one of you knows the concept. 20 years ago, not so many people knew the concept. So for me, this was like, haha, there's a need, I solved the problem, I like Apple, what could possibly go wrong? After a few weeks, this website created something between 300 and 400 euros per month with Google AdWords. So clearly some money, but also not enough to live on that. And I never managed to get more out of that. So from this perspective, stealing other websites' content and putting them in on a new website maybe was not the best business model. The good news here is that this site is still existing today. So until today, 21 years later, this site is still generating between 300 and 400 euros per month. So maybe next year I get invited here to talk about passive income. So after that, I tried to build a community because I thought the other thing didn't work, also did not work. Then I got the idea, okay, so if other people's content don't work, maybe I need original content. So I created a website that shows you how to dismantle your Mac and put in like more memory and stuff like that. Didn't work. Then I thought, now I got the experience in building all these websites. Maybe I can make a business out of building websites. So I started to be an agency and called it Go WWW. Did not work. So then I started a project which was a copy of a copy of a copy of Apple. So at that time, this was 2014 or something, or 2004, sorry. So Apple had a service called, I think, iDisk or something like that, where you can upload pictures, and you pay like $100 per month, and they only had it in the US. So then there was a player in Germany who copied that, and their price was like $60, but the same concept, same features, same everything, and they were sort of successful with this. I created a product that was similar, but not only you can upload your pictures, but also you can write something, so sort of a blog. And I did not only have one price, I had like 3 plans. One that was cheaper than my competitor, one that was the same, and one that cost double from that of my competitor. And the feature for the most expensive plan was that you could add sub-users and share files with the other users. So this, at this point, my best friend also happened to be the best friend of my competitor. So when every one of us went out for drinks with him, we were like complaining about the other. So I was always complaining that, in my opinion, I have the better product, but I'm like a one-man show, and the other ones are like a real company. And they were complaining like, how can this fucker have the better product when he's doing everything alone? And we have like the developers, the marketing, and even the support. And actually at that time, in the market, the reviews for the product said, if you know what you are doing, then go for the Lola product. But if you need help, don't even bother, because he's not gonna answer your emails. So if you need help, you need to go with the others. So at some point, my best friend got so annoyed of complaining that he said, I don't want to listen to it anymore. You guys go out for a drink and never talk about this to me again. So we went out for drinks. We talked for maybe 5 seconds about the businesses, drank a lot of alcohol, and at the end of the evening, it was clear that we can either keep each other small or join forces and together have one product that works, which did not. But the company also was the biggest news site. And being the biggest news site, they had a challenge. And the challenge was, once a year when Apple announced new products, there was the show in San Francisco, and all of the news sites blocked live about the show. There was no streaming at that time, which means people could not watch that on YouTube. They were like hitting refresh on the news websites. So we had like 1 million hits in half an hour. And all of the news websites had to basically close down, shut down the website, put up a static design, which was only HTML with an auto refresh, uploaded to the servers. This was the only way to keep up with the traffic. And we were annoyed by that. So we just switched to WordPress, and I invented one of the first WordPress full caching plugins. And then for the next San Francisco show, we did not shut down the website. We kept the website running. On the next day, our competitors phoned us and they asked, how did you do that? We saw that you did not switch off the website. How did you do it? So we explained. And then they asked, can you also do it for us? And we were like, don't know, we can try. So suddenly we had a hosting customer. And then the next one, and the next one, and the next one. And at some point, our company had like 3 people writing news and 10 people keeping the platform running. So then we realized maybe writing news about Apple is not the best competence that we have. So what I learned here is to solve the customer's problem, and the product will follow. So the company that we founded out of Mac News was called Sys11. This was my 5th try of being self-employed. And it was the first one that was successful. Sys11, like 6 months ago, was sold for a reasonable amount of money. Unfortunately, I was only a minor shareholder. But we need to learn from our mistakes, right? So what I want to tell you is, and this is the most important thing, with not giving up, I do not mean to stay on the same idea that is clearly not working. Because if I would have stayed with just mac.info, I would not have been able to build up the reputation and being invited here on the stage. But also, if I would have given up, I also wouldn't be here. So with never fucking quit, I mean to constantly evolve your idea and find out what's working and what's not working, and getting rid of everything that's not working and keeping what's working. And if nothing is working, then come up with a new idea. This is the concept of never fucking quit. It's not stay until you die. So the conclusion for today, if I could hope for just one takeaway that you take from this presentation, then it would be this. Or maybe this. So I hope I could give you some ideas on how to make the lives of your competitors different and difficult, while at the same time creating joy for you. I also hope that I was able to inspire you just a little bit to think about how do you compare to your competitors and how much fun you can take out of this situation. But as always, what I hope the most is that you are having fun on this conference. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much. You want to take questions?
Thank you.
Thank you
this
so
really
much,
means
Thomas.
a lot to me.
That's really good.
And please add me on Facebook, because I have several bets running that Facebook is still working in a business context, and I really want to prove these smart asses wrong. You are all my friends.
Yeah, add him. Actually, in Asia, it's still pretty popular, in Thailand especially. Do you have any questions for Thomas? Please. Questions? No questions.
Everyone wants to go for lunch.
Yeah, but it was really inspiring session, and I think we made a good decision to have Thomas speaking at a business conference rather than tech. Was there is? Sorry, can't see you. Oh, Michael, go ahead.
Hi, Thomas. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Can you talk a little bit? Sorry, there's a lag.
Yes.
Sorry.
Talk a little bit about this idea that Facebook.
Okay. So the only question we have doesn't have anything to do with my presentation.
What's the last statement?
Okay,
Should have said
so
that.
the question was if I can explain a bit more why Facebook does or does not work for business.
I want to understand the reason why you
Yes.
think that and
So
what you're trying to prove.
basically, everyone tells me, at least in Germany, Facebook is dead, Instagram is the new thing, or in the business, LinkedIn is the new thing. And this is the social media you have to be on.
Yep.
What I did years ago was that we didn't really have a company account on Facebook. So it was my private account, and I was like sharing company stuff, private stuff, also vacation pictures. And what happened is that I sort of built up this reputation of being authentic. So years later, when I post something on Facebook that is business related, because of being so authentic for all the other years, people tend to believe what I'm writing. And then they write back and they add me. And also when I'm on a conference, I add people as my friends. So I also see what you are posting. So it's much closer than if we would have like a blog from the website, from the company. Did this answer your question a bit? So being more authentic?
Yeah, it does. But it also brings up something that was in your presentation, and that was the discovery part. This idea of Lola's tattoos is directly related to this, right? Because you're still going to a conference, you're still having a booth, you're still doing everything everybody else is doing,
Yes.
but you're not doing the same thing.
No.
And that's how this is related. Because in Facebook, it's hard to get attention. And we were having this conversation last night about discovery. And I think that's the hardest thing. And that's what you were saying before about the tattoo booth.
Yes. So basically, what we try to do is that sometimes you don't have another choice than doing the same thing. For example, having the booth. But you have the choice in how you do it completely differently than everyone else in the room. And the room can also be Facebook. So only really a few people have the same account privately and for the company. I did for years. And that's why it's working.
Okay, that's a great answer. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you so much, Thomas. Anyone else, or I guess not?
Let's go
Okay,
to
let's go.
lunch.
So thank you so much, Thomas. And if you want to have, a chat with Thomas later, we can do that over lunch.